And before he goes, I'd like to introduce Amir Raziel, who's part of the HP Industrial Strategic Team, one of the leaders, and he's going to give a fantastic, insightful talk in 15 minutes before he goes, the 5 transitions driving print. Amir.
All right. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, we're good to go? There we go. So hi, everyone. Looks like we're losing more and more people as time passes. But my name is Amir Raziel. I'm the Director of Strategy and Sustainability for HP's Industrial Print Division. And I gave an earlier talk on the day 1 of the summit. I'm going to talk about something a little bit different today. Before we start, how many of you attended FuturePrint in Cambridge last, was it November? Raise your hands. All right, good. How many of you listened to my colleague Nick Clemens talk about the 5 great transitions? All right, 3, 4, 5 people, good. Any of you listened to the podcast we did with Marcus or read the article? A little bit more, all right. So when Marcus asked me to give that talk about, give 15 minutes on the 5 great transitions, I said, well, how can I cover trends in the print industry in 15 minutes? And beyond that, we've already spoken about this 6 months ago. Trends are not something that, changes every month or 2. I mean, it's a transition, it's a story, it's a long transition. How do I, what do I have to convey that is new? Well, fortunately, things are happening at such a fast pace that there are things to talk about. And it reminded me of a saying, or at least in my mind, an old Chinese saying, which is, may you live in interesting times. So I said, all right, let's put this and start to talk with it. And then I Googled it. Then when you Google, you know what you find out? May you live in interesting times is not an old Chinese proverb. If anything, it's the beginning of an old Chinese curse, right? Which is basically, if you value, they value tranquility and everything, and if you're in interesting times, it's not a good thing. The other thing you find out is that it's probably not a Chinese proverb at all, and the origins of it are a speech by Robert Kennedy in Cape Town somewhere in 1966. That's what Google told me, not ChatGPT, and I didn't try ChatGPT on it, but it's a bit different. Still, the pace and the way that things are happening is incredible. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to go through a quick recap of what those transitions are, and then think about what is happening over the last few months, and how does that impact the print industry? What do we need to do about it? Make sense? Yeah? All right. So the story of the 5 great transitions is our attempt to imagine print over the next decade or 2. Where should we be heading to? What's our North Star? Where is our industry going? What's happening there? And we tried to imagine what it would look like. And we ended up, over that process, we worked with a couple of research firms. We collected insights also from our friends at Keypoint and from others. And we worked with NAPCO and Printing United about it. And we ended up thinking about print in 5 different pillars over the next 10, 15 years. And thankfully, over the last 2 days, I've heard all of these trends come up in one way or another. But when we look at print going forward, we believe that it will be automated. Our production floors and everything that goes around it will be integrated with AI. Yes, I am mentioning it again, being integrated into every step of operations. We believe that's going to happen. We also believe that the supply chain will be integrated. I mean, Jeff Watterson started talking about it earlier today, but fluctuating demand and the need to meet it along the changes in geopolitics, tariffs, dynamics is all going to shift the way people are looking at supply chains, and print needs to be ready to handle it. It will come because brands today don't need what they needed yesterday, and in a few years, it will become even more extreme. Sustainability has been a great topic of discussions over the last couple of days, and we do believe that the future of print is to become a cleaner technology, low CO2 emissions, biodegradable or recyclable media, and starting to take the print industry from an industry that has a reputation for being exploitative, not sustainable, to be something that is a lot more sustainable and measurable, quantifiable, right? There is data and aspects that need to go along with it. We also believe that printing will be connected. Print, and this is what attracts me into this industry, is a technology, but it's an art form. And we should all remember that, as you know, we're all thinking here about specs and speeds and efficiency and cost per page, but in the end, we end up with a product that someone takes in his hand and has to evoke a feeling. And the consumers of tomorrow are looking less for a one-off product and more for an experience. And we believe, and connected packaging is related to this, and variable data is connected to this, and you've heard my colleague, Jose Gorbea, Pepe, talking yesterday about part of that journey. We believe that's a big part of it, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later on. And in the end, we also believe that in order to thrive in tomorrow's world, converters, PSPs, need to do much more than just convert media into something that has print on it. If that's all they do, they're going to go out of business very, very fast. Data is going to become critical. Providing incremental services is going to become critical. You need to measure the results of what you print. It needs to be embedded, and you need to think about how you integrate the work that you do with your customers. So these are the 5 things that we look at print and what it will become. And when we said transitions, it's, you know, we looked at those changes and said, these are the transitions that we believe the print industry will go through. From manual labor to AI-driven automation. From low cost to low risk supply chains. From exploitative to sustainable production. From information to experience. And from product to service. These are the trends or the transitions that will influence our industry over the next decade or two. And they're not, you know, they're not one-offs. They're not trends that change from here to there. It's a journey. And it's our attempt at describing the overall journey and what the industry will go through. Now, then you ask yourselves, all right, then what's changed over the last 6 months or so? Because there's been a lot of changes, right? Charles, I said I wouldn't do a dance, right? But there was a famous blonde guy who was dancing during his campaigns, and his entrance into the world is just a symbol, or into politics, or his re-entry into politics is just a symbol of something bigger that is happening across the industry. But let's talk about a few things at the time that I've left, but a few things that are happening in the world today. So there's a lot of talks about immigration, not only in the US, also in Europe. Governments are coming up and pledging that they will put a stop to immigration across the continent. And this is coupled with the labor challenges that we're facing, right? Look to the right. Look at the job opening by thousands. Yes, this is US data, but I promise you, if I can pull up the European data, it will look exactly the same. And look at the rate that that's going down. Now, at the same time, on the left side, governments are curbing immigration, right? Blue, or the estimates, light blue or turquoise is what's happening in reality. And when you reduce immigration, you put further impact on the labor force, especially for us in Europe. And especially as a lot of the immigrants that are being put a stop to are in working age. And we are living in an aging world, or an aging demography situation. So if we're stopping immigration, what happens to the labor force? What happens to salaries? What happens to wages? What happens to what people are doing? And what's happening, or what will happen as we continue to stop immigration, is that the labor challenge will become tougher. Be aware, I'm not making a judgment call on why or what should be done. Okay, I'm looking at it from an objective perspective. If this is what's happening, what's going to happen to print? All right? And that will accelerate the move, because the reaction of converters, of print service providers, is going to be, well, I have less labor, I need to automate. This is exactly the trend that we talked about. Another trend, very hot topic during this week, tariffs, right? So, and I haven't opened the news over the last hour or two. I think I saw something yesterday that said that the U.S. Tariffs on China are averaging at 54%. I read that Israel has, my home country, has a 17% tariff on exporting to the U.S. I don't know what's true or what's not. I'll tell you what is true, is that business leaders look at the risks that they're facing, and the number one risk that they're seeing is a global trade war. That impacts global trade patterns. That accelerates the trend to shorter, lower risk supply chains, multiple suppliers, and a preference for domestic vendors. All right, so that's what's going to happen. And look at the trade policy uncertainty index, because on top of the risk of a trade war, you don't know what you're going to wake up and see tomorrow morning. So the uncertainty is increasing. And Dario was talking about the impact of this on investments. That's one of them. But at the end customers, at the brands, think about what it does to their supply chain. And it will only accelerate the trend for low-risk supply chains. Another thing that's happening is around sustainability. Even before the new administration, and we've started seeing brands pull back on commitments, right? We're starting to see companies who pledge, right? We're going to be fully recyclable by 2025, right? Well, 2025 is here. Is anyone meeting their goals? They're not meeting their goals. They're pulling back. Governments are pulling back on commitments. Companies are pulling back on commitments. And the mindset of the industry or the mindset of companies, that they can relax it. Fortunately, and you've heard it earlier today and also yesterday, that's not going to stop. Consumers are going to keep pushing for sustainability, and the regulations are going to start leading the way in sustainability. It's going to turn from something that is nice to have to something that we're forced to do. So let's prepare for it as an industry. And finally, I want to share with you something else about cost. So earlier, about a month ago, Printing United released a survey. What do you think of tariffs? What are you going to do? Look at what the results that they were showing were. Well, what's going to happen? It's going to increase our operating costs. It's going to reduce our profit margin, disrupt the supply chain. These are our customers talking about what this will do to them. And you know what the response that they have to this is? Number one response, 93% of participants said, we're going to increase prices. The others said, I think 73%, 73? Another 73% said, well, we're going to improve our operational efficiency to handle it. And a lesser number said, well, we're just going to swallow it. All right, that's one way to look at it. The other thing to consider is that paper and plates and printing is going to become more expensive. The more printing as a technology and as an industry becomes more expensive, especially because of paper, right? The more the industry becomes more expensive, the more print is going to have to change its function. It is no longer a method of communication. And couple that with the consumer demands, because everything is going to become more expensive. We need to make print become a more premium quality product that conveys an experience. and that will change the way or the role of print in the industry. Right? So that's something we all need to consider and think about what is happening there. Now, at this point, you might be sitting back and saying, oh my God, this is horrible. That's, we're heading into a crisis. This is not easy. Well, recapping into the Kennedys again, there was a speech by John F. Kennedy in 1959. I have to be honest with you, I don't know if this is true or not. But in a speech that he gave in 1959, he said, look, the word crisis in Chinese is made up of two letters. One letter means danger, one letter means opportunity. A crisis is both a risk, a danger, and an opportunity. And as we look at these things, a labor crisis is a challenge for the industry, but it's an opportunity for digital print. The trade war is a challenge and it's a risk, but it's an opportunity for digital print to improve the supply chains. The sustainability drive is a challenge that we need to deal with. It's a risk, but it's an opportunity for digital print. And increasing paper and plate costs are impacting our entire industry, but they are an opportunity for digital print. It's up to us to decide how we take advantage of this opportunity. If you want to know more, happy to talk. I do need to leave and drive out. QR code will take you to a landing page that talks a little bit more about the trends and what they are. Feel free to take a look at it. Also, feel free to reach out and be happy to chat with people about where the industry is going. It is my passion. I've been doing it for 20 years. It's one of the things I love to do. And let's build and imagine the future of print together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amir. Safe travels. Thanks for sharing that with us. And we've been really, really working hard, developing some great content with HPA over the past 6 months. More to come. And I'm sure you're going to be hearing that in the future. Thanks, Amir.